Yes. Good morning, students. Welcome to Zoology webinars of Model School for Senior Inter. Students, we are dealing with origin of life. In that, we started about organic evolution, isn't it? So, in the recent previous session of organic evolution, we were discussing and learned about how life originated, isn't it, on this planet. Now, today, let us learn more about different theories of evolution, particularly by our great scientists, where we talk a lot in day-to-day life, and also like when you have come across in your school days also, like ninth, 10th, even 8th class also, we have you would have heard about the great scientist name Darwin, isn't it? Darwin, Lamarck. So let us know what they really postulated and how they have become theories. Okay. Today we have with us Prashanti madam with us, and she is from PGT, from Chigurumamudi from Karimnagar districts. Good morning, madam.
Good morning, madam.
Uh, please take over the session, madam.
Yeah, thank you, madam. Good morning, dear students. Today, we shall go with the part 2, Theories of Evolution under the chapter Organic Evolution. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to know how living creatures survived and why is the survival of other creatures important for humans. Children, you will be able to recall the origin of life on Earth by chemical, biological evolution, describe Lamarckism theory, and also explain the struggle for existence and competition between animals. You will able to analyze the postulates in natural selection with examples. You will be able to give reasons how living organisms are adapting to the environment. You will show interest in the lesson and discuss with your friends the process of evolution, appreciate Darwin's theory through his voyage to HMS Beagle. You will coordinate all the theories of evolution through scientific basis through this lesson. These are the keywords, children, you will be coming across in my lesson, like use and disuse, decaudalization, overpopulation, adaptations, natural selection, struggle for existence, competition, survival of the fittest, origin of species, arrival of the fittest, vestigial organs, industrial melanism, mutations, variations, and reproductive isolation. Children, we have learned about the origin of life theories in our session 1. Yes, God created nature. This was being said in the theory of special creation. Life has existed from sperms or spores according to panspermia theory. Life has existed from non-living organisms, that is abiogenesis theory speaks about. Life comes from every catastrophe, that is catastrophism. Life comes from that is living organisms. Life comes from Koyar's-Weight, that is biological and chemical evolution. By duration, various theories have been proposed to explain the process of evolution, but the theories that explain the scientific basis of organic evolution are Lamarckism, Darwinism, mutualism, and modern synthetic theory. Children, let us see to the first theory of evolution, Lamarckism. Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck. He was born on August 1st, 1774 in France. At the age of 17, after his father's death, he joined French army as a soldier. He served in the military and he was recognized for his bravery. But after his leg injury, he happened to return back to his home and he took up a new career in natural history as he was a nature lover. He has written a book, philosophy, zoologic, that is, which deals with the theory of the inheritance of acquired characters. Lamarck was the first person to lay foundation of evolution. Let us see, children, to the postulates of Lamarckism theory. That is, new needs, use and disuse of organs, inheritance of acquired characters, speciation. Let us discuss about each of this in detail. New needs. Needs help an organism to live, like adjusting to the environment. We need, that is, sunlight, food, that is, good atmosphere, temperature, shelter, and if there is no proper shelter, people will be migrating. That is, people adapt to the changed environment. Isn't it, children? Climate also plays a vital role to the changing environment. For example, when you see like an American, an African, and Chinese, yes, are all human beings, but are all appearing the same? No. That is, might be their skin complexion, their way of lifestyle, everything is different. So that is, they get adapted to the environment where they live. When the environment of certain organisms undergoes some changes, it forces to use certain organs more and put some other organs to disuse. So let us see the use and disuse of organs. Children, new desires develop in the changed environment condition due to the new needs. This is called as doctrine of desires or appetency. Organs which are used more, they will be increasing in size. That is, if they are not used immediately, they will be degenerating. Such characters, that is, which are harmful, they are eliminated or they tend to disappear in the due course of time. But which are useful during the lifetime of an organism, they are propagated and they are being passed on to the next generation. So such characters that are developed during the lifetime of an individual are called as inheritance of acquired characters. Let us see, children, a few examples in support of Lamarckism. Giraffe. Ancient giraffe used to eat small green vegetation which is on the ground with its small neck. But later it started increasing its neck. That is, when the vegetation scarcity was found due to the population of giraffe, it started stretching his neck to reach the short-heighted trees. Next, after the short height trees were also found scarcity, it started elongating his neck to reach the tall trees. So eventually, as neck was used very often, they got permanently long neck in the course of evolution in further generations. So children, initially the neck and the forelimbs were very small. Later, the need and the high usage of the neck and the forelimbs made them elongated over generations. So that is use and disuse of organs. Means when we are using the organs to a large extent, they will be more functional. So here this is the example, children. So that is here. In the present generation, we observe the giraffe with a long neck and the forelimbs elongated. So this is only due to the, it is being driven by the inner need. So what do you observe here on the neck of the woman, children? So here we see some rings are being coiled around. So when you see the women of Kayan tribe from Burma, they are commonly known as long-necked women. And here they wear brass ring coils around their neck. That is to keep their neck elongated. The belief is that the longer the neck, the more beautiful the women appear. Yes, this is a snake, children. So, absence of limbs in snakes. When you take about 150 million years ago, that is, snakes had legs, but legs eventually disappeared due to the non-usage of the limbs. Then how do the snakes move, children? Yes, snakes move with the help of the muscles present in their body. So as there is no usage of the limbs eventually disappeared. If at all present in a rare case, they are also like rudiments. When we take aquatic birds like that of the duck, we find here the webbed toe. Webbed toes are being present. So these ducks, these might have been evolved from the terrestrial ancestor. So terrestrial means living on the land. So they might have lived in the land. But when you see this duck, they live both on the land and also in the water. So over here, webbed feet in the aquatic birds helps them to swim in the water. So by the more usage of the toes, the webbed toes, they became permanent. And when you see to the flightless birds, children, like when you take examples of emu, ostrich, etc., belonging to Ratitae family, they have long necks and elongated legs. Long neck and elongated legs. Just see the picture, children. So over here, when you see, these might have been evolved from the flying ancestors, but they rely on running and swimming. But it is not necessary for them to fly. So eventually, they lost the flight. That also the wings remained as vestigial. So that's why we call them as flightless birds. And as they are not using the wings, we find that there are disuse of the wings, we can say. Yes, these are the cave dweller animals, children. These ancestors had normal eyesight. In due course of evolution, they adapted to live under continuous dark conditions. When you take examples like mole children. So over here, when you live in the dark conditions, that is, you won't be exposed to the light, unable to expose to the light. So they eventually, they have lost their vision over time. When you take another example, penguins. Yes, the wing structures are evolved for swimming rather than flying. They swim underwater at a speed of 20 miles per hour. As there is no need for them to fly, they lost the ability to fly. Here, this is the evolution of the horse. This is the ancient horse, Oohoopus, that is dog-sized children. And it has been evolving now into a modern horse, that is Equus. So here, when you see this horse reduced their toes from 5 to 1, that is a single toed, we can say, and also elongation of the legs by standing on the toes. So that is, by more usage of the organs, their organs have become more functional, we can say. Next, when you take flat fishes, the flat fishes body plan with complete orbital migration. That is, here when you see both eyes, these are been lying on one side of the head. Next, when you see the evolution of the horse, and also when you take the retractile claws in the carnivores, like might you take the cat, like a tiger. Few examples here. These claws, these are versatile and these are multi-purpose tools, children. When you see why are the claws used or for what purpose they are used? Yes, they are useful for climbing, scratching, turning, balancing, defending themselves against the other cats, dogs, or the other animals and protect itself from the predators. So, by the more usage of the retractile claws every day made their claws also more stronger. Yes, this is a picture of deer. What is it doing, children? Yes, it is running. So can you say the speed of the deer? Yes, the deer can move to a speed of 80 kilometers per hour. It is due to the long limbs and powerful shoulders. It runs faster, even more faster than a tiger and a lion to protect itself from being hunted. Means it is running for its survival. Appendix. Appendix of our ancestors served a specific purpose. This was helpful in the digestion of tough herbivorous food. Eventually, humans started to take easy digestible food in their diet, and appendix lost its function. Now it is called as vestigial organ. What is this, children? Yes, this is the pinna, which is also the vestigial organ in the human. It do not have any function. Just it gives shape to the ear. And when we see over here, the sound, it is being received the middle ear and the internal ear. So external ear, that is a pinna, plays no role or no mechanism in hearing. So this is also considered as vestigial organ. Objections to Lamarckism. The main objective came from August Weismann, a British evolution biologist. So over here, he was best known for his opposition to the doctrine of the inheritance of acquired traits. He formulated the germplasm theory of inheritance. Then what was his objection? How did he object? We will be seeing, children. August Weismann, he conducted decaudalization experiments on rats. He has taken both male and female cats. He cut the tails of it, that is a decaudalization, allowed them to breed. Okay, so in this way, he has cut the tails of the rats for 22 generations. But to his surprise, he has noticed even in the 23rd generation, the tailless rats were there, but not with the tailed rats. So over here, he has proved that characters influencing germ cells are only inherited. Children, the bodies of the living organisms have, that is, germline cells, somatic cells. This you have learned in the reproduction chapter. Germline cells, that is, they carry gonads, that is, eggs and the sperms. When you take the somatic cells, they will be producing various organs like nerves, muscles, skin, etc. The protoplasm of the germ cells characters, these are being transferred to the next generation, or they are being transferred to the developing embryo, but not the protoplasm of the somatic cell. This is being said by August Weismann. Let's see even other examples, children, like when you see the well-developed muscles of the athletes. Okay, so nowadays many are going to gym to have a six-pack body, etc. Over here, when you see, are these the six-pack or are these well-developed muscles are being carried to the next generation? No, these are not carried to their children. Means these somatic cells, the external appearances, this will not be carried to the next generation. Let's see another example, children. So that is making perforations to pinna, that is boring to the ear and also to the nose. So this is for wearing ornaments that has been practiced in India for the past several centuries. Isn't it, children? We wear earrings and also rings to the nose. When you see, but no girl child is born with ready-made perforations to the pinna and nose till now. Means these are not being carried to the next generation. European women, They look really stylish, isn't it, children? And when you see their waist, there has been they are wearing a nearly a tight garment. Why they wear, children? Yes, it makes them look beautiful, slim, and stylish. Nowadays, Indians are also following the tight waist garments. But children, when you see the offsprings born to them, that is, they are having normal waist but not a slim waist, means these are not being carried to the next generation. Tattoos. Since 1970s, tattoos have become a mainstream part of global and Western fashion. These are being worn neck, hands, and also to the full body nowadays. Then who keeps these tattoos? So these are being used as a fashion to gain attention by the celebrities, athletes, and also nowadays all people are wearing tattoos. So these are the foot of a Chinese woman, children. Just you see the difference of our toes and the Chinese woman toes. So here you notice that foot binding, that their foot are being binded tightly in the Chinese women to make their feet as small as possible to make it beautiful. But the children born to them are again with a normal foot. Neo-Lamarckism. Contribution of Lamarck paved the way for gradual acceptance and was modified. That is Neo-Lamarckism. This is the modified version of Lamarck. Followers of Lamarck like Cope, Osborne, Packard, and Spencer, they try to explain Lamarck's theory on a more scientific basis. Neo-Lamarckists, they considered adaptations are universal. When you take an example like a rabbit, a wild rabbit, and a pet rabbit. Over here, wild rabbit, it will be adapting to the situations of the forest. The rabbit which we rear, it will be adapting to our home conditions. So, adaptations are universal. And we can also say that changing environment conditions sometimes show an influence on heredity. That is, they can pass on to the offsprings. Individual vital force, appetency, they have no role in evolution. When you see the vital force, so that is increase in the size of the body, it is not due to the vital force. And our desires, these are not carried to our children. We may have various desires, children, like we may be good at teaching, we may be good at talking, dancing, boxing, etc. Then are all these characters carried to our children? No. So individual vital force, appetency, they have no role in evolution. Here, these are the various variations, children. When you see, these are the offsprings of rat, cat, horse, and here the human being. Variations are passed on to the offspring. These not only influenced by the germ cells, but also somatic cell secretions. They reach the sex cells through the blood, and these are inherited to the offsprings. Nowadays, when you say, the kids say that you resemble or they resemble their grandparents, their mother or father. That is, over here variations are being carried not only by the germ cells but also but the somatic cells also, they are reaching to the sex cells through the blood. Regeneration. What is regeneration? That is gaining the lost part is called as regeneration. Yes, we find regeneration in both invertebrates and vertebrates. When you see invertebrates, they can regenerate the whole organism. For example, when you take flatworm or sea star. And in the vertebrates, they are capable of regenerating only the substantial part of the body, but not the whole organism. When you take humans, that is, it is limited to the skin and liver cells. Frog, that is, the tadpoles can regenerate the limbs. and axolotl larva, that is limbs and spine. That is, they are confined to only certain parts, children. When you see regeneration in Hydra, to which phylum? That is Cnidaria. So here it shows the best regeneration. When any part is cut from Hydra, again it develops into a new Hydra. That is, the somatic cells, they give rise to the another fresh organism. So somatic cells are also passed on to the next generation. So this is all about Lamarckism, children. The Lamarckism, examples of Lamarckism, and also the objections which have been raised, we have learned with few examples. Let's see about the Darwinism. Yes, Charles Robert Darwin. He was born in Shrewsbury in the year 1809 in England. John Stephen Henslow was his botany teacher who inspired him a lot in his life journey. During childhood, he was a bit lazy, not interested in studies, but he was a good athlete. He was a nature lover and also a very naughty boy. Charles Darwin's father wanted his son to make him a doctor, but he was afraid of the blood during dissection. So he ran off without listening to the classes of medicine. He showed interest in visiting museums and also admiring the various fossils and also how they are being stuffed. Darwin used to spend most of the time with his botany teacher Henslow. Henslow's teachings influenced Darwin. People used to call Darwin man who walks with Hensley. So Hensley has really influenced Darwin. Hensley arranged a trip as unpaid naturalist through HMS Beagle voyage. What is the full form of HMS, children? HMS, that is Her Majesty's ship. So this was the name of the ship. So this was a Beagle voyage. This has been arranged by Darwin's teacher. So Charles Darwin, he conducted a research in his journey. For 5 years, he traveled from 1831 to 1836. He explored the flora and fauna of various countries and islands. And he was in his way to find out how life changes over time. So he explored the different countries, children. That is, he started 1831, that is from England. He crossed the different places. So this is the red line shows the various places he has crossed, like that is Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Galapagos Islands, New Zealand, Australia, Tasmania, South Africa, Brazil, and finally again he reached England in the year that is 1836. Okay, so one of the place was Galapagos Island. So this is really an interesting volcanic island, children. He visited. This was 960 kilometers from the west coast of South America in the Pacific Ocean. He visited Galapagos Islands in the year 1835. He spent more than a month over there and he was really very happy to observe the various animals like giant tortoises, giant lizards, giant iguanas, and also small finches. He was also astonished to see sea lions, terrestrial lizards, and also various kinds of tortoises all over the Galapagos Islands. So he called the Galapagos Island as the living laboratory of evolution. He also observed different fossils in many places of his Beagle voyage. By seeing all of this, he came to conclusion that life existed before also, and questions arise in his mind like how species disappear, and how how they died, and how they are being related to the living species. He was impressed by the finch birds. There was a large variation in the finches, and he has found different varieties of the finches. Likewise, he has seen 14 varieties among the 13 varieties from the Galapagos Islands and one variety from the Cocos Island. So here, this gave him an idea of natural selection. Finches provide divergent evolution. So according to their feeding habit, they gained, that is the size and shape of the beak were being varying, like the fruit eaters, insect eaters, cactus eaters, and the seed eaters. We'll see to the ideas and the persons influenced and shaped the Charles Darwin's thinking. Thomas Malthus. He was the person influenced Charles Darwin a lot. He has written a book, an essay on the principles of population. It states that animals are increasing in the geometric progression, whereas the food sources are increasing in the arithmetic progression. When you see there is a large increase in the population, population is increasing, but are the food and shelter sources are increasing? No, they are not increasing proportionally. So Darwin applied this to the animals. He was also very much impressed towards Sir Charles Lyell book. In his journey, he read a book of Sir Charles Lyell, The Principles of Geology. Yes, he was very much impressed towards that is learning the slow changes in the formation of the earth and also the geological state of the modern earth. So this was all mentioned in the principles of geology. He was also surprised to see fossils, skulls, and also jaws and beaks, and understood how creatures could have procured food. He was also impressed by Alfred Russel Wallace, his journal on the tendency of species to form varieties from original types. He was really very much influenced. And there is a quote, children, should civilized man ever reach these lands, he will so disturb nature as to cause the disappearance and finally the extinction of these animals. Means nowadays there is a large amount of pollutions. So if these all will be continuing, once again, the humans will become extinct. So in his voyages, that is over here, of the 5 years, he was highly influenced by the persons, that is Thomas Malthus, Charles Lyell, and also that is Alfred Ross Wallace. And he finally arrived the Falmouth, England in the year 1836, 2nd October. And after his journey, he has written a book, The Origin of Species. In this, he explained natural selection. This is the book, children, The Origin of Species by means of natural selection. Let's see to the postulates of Darwinism. They are overproduction, constancy in population, struggle for existence, universal occurrence of variations, natural selection, and origin of a species. Overproduction. When you see there is overproduction in the due course of time, every organism tends to increase the population in large proportion. When you take some examples like human beings, there was a large variation in the population from the olden days to the recent time. And also when you take examples like paramecium, they divide by binary fission at the rate that they may increase to a limitless extent. And also when you take salmon fish and also the starfish, they lay millions of eggs when there is no proper check on it. And also when you take the slowest breeder elephant, when there is no check, this will also give rise to nearly millions of children, that is kid elephants. But is this continuing? Overproduction or overpopulation is continuing? No. There is constancy in population. That's abnormal increase is not noticed in the population of any species in the nature. That is, might be the death of the parents or might be the death of the offsprings. This all will show the constancy in population. It is true that the food and also the other sources like water, they do not increase to the same proportion as that of the population. And there is high competition for the resources. Struggle for existence. As the food sources are limited, severe competition exists among the members of the population. Darwin called this competition as struggle for existence. So this is a threefold, children. So this is the struggling of existence between the organisms and also competition even between your studies and also for the job. Competition is a threefold, that is intraspecific struggle, interspecific struggle, struggle with the environment. First one, intraspecific struggle. Intra means within. The competition found among the individuals of the same species is called intraspecific struggle. So here when you see organisms that are on the tree or under the tree of the same species, they will be competing with each other. Here two cats are fighting and also two deer. So that is competition between the individuals of the same species. And also human beings competing with each other, snakes, dogs. So it is for food, shelter, and mate. So it is the most severe check on the rate of reproduction. So this is intraspecific struggle. Next, interspecific struggle. What is inter? Inter means in between. The competition found among the individuals of different species is called interspecific struggle. So here we are seeing the picture of the fight between a tiger and the lion, and also the alligator and the man, and also the snake and the lizard. So most of the species have the same type of food habits. So hence the competition exists among them mostly for food and shelter. Struggle with the environment. All living organisms struggle with the adverse environmental conditions. Isn't it, children? Yes, we will be struggling. Like when you take in the severe summer, severe winter, severe snowfall, and also famine, floods, cyclones, occurrence of earthquakes, and the when you take that is the famine, volcanic eruptions, and migrating to other places. So changes in the environmental factors, they make the people to struggle with the environment. Next, we see to the variations. No two organisms are exactly similar, isn't it, children? They show slight variations. Even the offsprings of the same parents are also different, isn't it, children? Might be we show some similar features, but still we are unique and we are different from our parents, grandparents, etc. This is slight variations in the butterflies, Slight variations in the flowering plants, variations in the cats, variations in the parrots. So when you see the variations, they help an organism to overcome struggle. Such variations which are used very often, they have been useful and they are being carried to the next generation, but which are harmful, they are tend to disappear or they have been eliminated in the due course of evolution. Individuals possessing, that is the beneficial variations, which are more reproductively successful, are having more ability to reproduce. They produce fertile offspring. So that is, they are said to be the fittest organisms. But the organisms with less reproductive success, that is, they are struggling for existence even till now. This is called as natural selection. And Herbert Spencer called this phenomenon as survival of the fittest. Let's see some examples to support natural selection. When you take example of giraffe, we learned even in the Lamarckism, children, that is the usage of the neck and the limbs. Now let's see how we can exemplify this under natural selection. Here when you see this picture, the short limb and short neck giraffe. So here the vegetation scarcity is there, and in the next picture we see that the giraffes are dying. Why? Means only the animals which are struggling to live, they are existing, and others have been eliminated. So that is, who are struggling by stretching their neck, by stretching their limbs, they are struggling and survival in the nature. So nature selects the best to be fit in the environment. So which organisms which only try will be fitting in the environment. Like here when you see the picture, elongated neck and the forelimbs, they stretch to reach the topmost leaves of the trees. So that is, always we have to try until we reach the success. Darwin concluded that struggle for existence resulting in the survival of the fittest allows successive generations to become better adapted to the environment, and they show variations, and all the variations selected by the nature, they accumulate over generations, and some accumulations of the variations, they are different from that of the parent. So these are being isolated and they give rise to the new species. So just see the picture, children. This is the original population, and a few organisms, they have been separated, they have been isolated, and they give rise to the new species. This is Staphylococcus bacteria. When this has been growing in a particular medium, it shows good amount of growth. But if the medium composition is being changed, then is the growth of the bacteria the same as that of the before? No. Only which are being adapted to the new environment will survive. Others will be eliminated or will die. He also, that is pointed out of the Darwin finches, that is the organisms which are being isolated, that is they are being living in Galapagos Islands, and to that environment they have modified their beaks to live. And this was the natural selection. The nature selected the finch birds, like modify the beaks like insect eating, seed eating, etc. And this is the caterpillar example, children, when you see the sexual reproduction, which results in genetic variation. That is the struggle for the survival. Organisms which compete, they will be struggling and surviving in the environment. But when you see organisms with less favorable characteristics, they may not survive or breed. So that is only the organisms which struggle will survive in the nature. Here, this is a picture of the moth children. When you see, this is the bark of the tree. So this is the black moth and this is the gray moth. So black moth, this is camouflage. That is the color has been mixed with that of the bark of the tree, which is not visible by the birds. The birds will be eating this gray color moths. So here when you see, the original population was a gray color, but after natural selection, it was only the black colored moths were been living. So that is, nature selects the organisms which to be fitting to the better environment. Yeah, this is the organism living on the leaf. So this is easily visible to the eater. Next, when you see the natural selection of the phyla, so overproduction means the beyond the population, they produce many young, and here they show many variations, and the nature will be selecting only the best which are being suited, and these variations, these are being inherited, so these will be producing the offsprings. So we can say that variations, they carry inheritance of the characters and show better survival and reproduction, and these are adapted to the environment. When you see the example of mice children, here we find two colors of mice, that is light colored and dark colored. Here we find oval. Here these ovals are having poor eyesight. So here these ovals, they are able to see, that is the mice, that is they showed the first generation, they had more light mice, so these were being killed as they were easily being traced out, so the population was being reducing. When you see the next over here, the ovals with poor eyesight, they can't find food easily, so they died. Eventually only the ovals with good eyes, they can hunt easily, and this light colored were been missing completely, and the dark colored mice, that is they were having some good covering of the skin which has been mixed with the environment, they protected themselves for the survival. So that is over here when you see the various techniques struggling to survival is being exemplified in this example. The Origin of Species. This is a book written by Charles Darwin after his return journey from the HMS Beagle. There are also several objections to Darwinism, like Lamarckism. Like he said the variations, but he did not explain why variations and how they are being inherited to the offsprings. He couldn't differentiate between heritable and non-heritable variations. And Darwin said about the useful variations are carried to the next generation, but he did not say the status of harmful variations, and he did not utter about neutral variations. He did not focus on mutations also. He couldn't explain the arrival of the fittest. He just focused on the survival of the fittest children, but didn't explain arrival of the fittest. And he said the vestigial organs, but couldn't explain then why are they still present in the organisms like appendix. He explained that is small variations, but not about macro variations. And also, he couldn't explain the over specializations of some organs beyond usefulness, like tusk of elephant and antlers of the deer. He couldn't distinguish the somatic and germinal variations, and also his record did not support the fossils. These were all entirely incomplete, and there were several questions like how did the life appear, then how was it, etc. These were not being answered. Till now, children, we have seen about the Darwinism theory. Now let's see to the experimental verification of natural selection, which is industrial melanism. An important practical proof, that is for the operation of natural selection, This is a classical case of industrial melanism. This has been performed in England. In 19th century, where there were no industries and there was no pollution, he has taken peppered moth. The scientific name is Wiston betuluria. He has taken two forms, children, that is black moth and gray peppered moth. As there was no pollution, no industries, when you see the bark of the trees, these are covered with lichens. The lichens were also gray in color. And when you see the moths, the gray colored moths, they were being camouflaged with the bark of the tree. But when you see the black colored moths, these are easily been visible. So these were eaten by the birds. So that is before industrialization, black moths, they were eaten a lot. So they are less in number, and gray moths, they are abundant. But after industrialization, that is different industries, they're releasing the smoke, coal was used, soot was also deposited on the barks of the trees. So the bark of the tree changed to black color, and the black colored moth was mixed or camouflaged with the bark of the trees, and the gray colored moth was visible. So eventually, when you see, black colored moths were more in number, and now the gray moths were decreased. Again, industrial revolution, when you see, this shifted from the industries by running coal to the electricity. Again, when you see, the tree's bark was covered with lichens. So when you see the black moths, they were being lessened, and the gray moths, they were abundant. That is like it resembles before industrialization. So the nature selects the best adapted to the changed environmental conditions. This explains about industrial melanism. That is, the nature selects what to be fitted. Melanin, this is the pigment. So coloring of the organism will help the nature to select to the best changed environmental conditions. So before industrialization, that is the light colored moths used to be survive. But when you take, that is after industrialization, that is due to the pollution, the black colored moths, they were camouflaged with the bark of the tree. So these were being protected. So the scenario has been changed. And Bernard Kettlewell, he also simulated an experiment. He conducted the experiment on moths. And that is, he released the moths in two areas, that is Birmingham, a polluted urban area, and a Dorset, unpolluted rural area. And after a few days, he collected the both forms of moths from Birmingham and Dorset. And he observed that black forms, they survived in the Birmingham. It was a polluted area. So the black forms camouflaged with that of the bark of the tree. When you take the Dorset, which was a rural area, unpolluted area, gray forms survived. So this is explains the differential selection of moths due to natural selection. Let's see to the mutation theory, children. What are mutations? Mutations is change in the chromosomal genetic makeup. This constitute mutations. Mutations, these have been proposed by Hugo de Vries. He was a Dutch botanist. He was the first who coined the term mutation in the year 1901. He was also the first to propose the mutation theory of evolution. According to him, mutations are sudden random variations. And he has done an experiment on evening primrose plant. The scientific name was Oenothera lamarckiana, and the chromosome number was 14. And he pollinated That is, by the self-pollination, he has noticed the two types of plants, that is, majority were normal plants, but he has found to his surprise a few plants which are different. And he self-pollinated them once again. And he has found that majority plants resemble their parents, but few plants, that is, they did not resemble their parents. So they showed variations. What kind of variations? That is, they showed variations in the change in the color of the flower, size of the flower, and also change in the chromosome number, like 16, 20, 22, 24, etc. So he called the sudden changes as mutations. Let's see to the postulates of mutation theory. Change in the genetic material. This has been carried to the next generation. This was the postulate given in the mutation theory. And also mutations provide raw material for evolution. And he said that big discontinuous changes means the changes appear to a big, and also these are not continuous. They occur suddenly in the form of jerk. And the useful mutations, these are being selected, and these are being carried to the next generation. And the lethal and harmful mutations, these are being eliminated from the nature. Likewise, when you see the finches from Galapagos, the finch birds which have been adapted to the environment existed. So suddenly a single large mutation has taken place, that is, they isolated to a far place. So new species as arose. This is called as saltation. Children, this is a very important term which has been asked in your competitive examinations. What is saltation? A single large mutation giving rise to a new species is called as saltation. Let's see some examples for mutations. So that is, this is anchored ship, children, seen in Massachusetts in the year 1791. So when you notice all the ships, these are having a long leg. But when you see, there was a sudden appearance of very short leg. Just see the picture, children. A short-legged variety appeared suddenly in 1791. So as it suddenly appeared, this has been taken in the example of mutations. And when you see here, cattle, here these are having long horns, horned cattle. Here this has been shifted to a hornless cattle in the year 1889. So there was a sudden change. And here when you see, this is our Indian cat, the body covered with the skin. This has been shifted to the hairless cat, which we see in Russia. And also when you see their toes having like our digits, like 5 digits, and also a delicious apple, a sudden changes. And also we find sunflowers yellow color. So this is a red sunflower. So these sudden changes, this all come under mutations. Then what is the significance of mutation theory? This gives direct attention to the mutation. Not only mutation, natural selection and isolations of mutants, these are also essential for evolution. Modern synthetic theory. This is also called as neo-Darwinism. So this is the synthesis or a modified version of the two theories, that is the Charles Darwin's theory and Hugo de Vries theory. And there are various scientists who also supported and contributed to this theory. The scientists who supported Darwinism, that is Huxley, Haeckel, and Simpson, and also the scientists who supported natural selection, that is Fisher and Sewell Wright. And they also supported mutation theory also. The postulates of neo-Darwinism. When you see, that is, there are two postulates, children, genetic variability and natural selection. That is Change in the genetic makeup is called as genetic variability. Natural selection means nature selects the better fitted one to be adapted to the environment. So these two are being considered as the postulates of the modern version of Darwinism, which is the modern synthetic theory. So genetic variability, what are the causes? So it includes the factors like mutations, sudden changes, recombinations, that is the exchange of the chromosomes, genetic material, hybridization, and also genetic drift. So these four, mutations, recombination, hybridization, genetic drift, these are the four factors of genetic variability. Let's see in detail. Mutations. What are mutations, children? Just now we have studied about the mutation theory. That is a sudden change when it occurs, it is called as mutation. Let's see sickle cell anemia. When you compare the hemoglobin of a normal person with a mutated hemoglobin. So here when you see the nucleotide, the DNA structure, here it is CTT, and here the nucleotide order is CAT. The mRNA, it is GAA in the normal hemoglobin. But when you see the order differs, it is GUA in the mutated hemoglobin. When you see the protein encoding the normal hemoglobin is glutamin, whereas in the mutated hemoglobin is valine. So the normal blood cell is being replaced by the sickle red blood cell, and here it leads to the anemic condition. The mutations are of two types: chromosomal mutations, change in the chromosomes, and genetic mutations, that is change in the genetic makeup. So change in the chromosomes, these are called as chromosomal mutations, and here this is might be due to the external appearance, that is the morphological changes, or the change in the chromosome number, that is called as the numerical changes. Chromosomal abnormalities, here these include deletion, that is the deletion of some arm of the chromosome, or duplicating some chromosomes, inversion, that is sequence of the order and substituting it, or translocating. So these are all the chromosomal aberrations or the chromosomal disorders. And when you see the numerical, that is the numbering of the chromosomes, like aneuploidy, that is change in the chromosome number, that is +2 or -2, means addition of 2 chromosomes, or deletion, like Down syndrome, etc., or euploidy, that is change in the set of chromosomes in polyploidy. So these are all changing, taking place in the mutation. And also when you take point mutations, that is addition, subtracting, or inserting a nitrogen base. Recombination, that is the sister chromosomes exchanging the genetic material. This is called as the recombination. And when you take in a population, some are being completely isolated and they form a gene pool. And elimination of genes or alleles from a population is called as genetic drift. Here, when you see the example here in the mice, the first generation, they had a frequency of 0.5. When in the second generation, it has been varying, that is 0.7, 0.3. And the third generation, it is 1 and 0. So that is change in the gene frequency is called as a genetic drift. And this is also called as allelic drift. The next one is under the modern synthetic theory after genetic variability is natural selection. That is, nature selects the best organism to be fitted. Here, when you see the black moths, these are being covered. So these are being protected, and the gray moths, which are being identified by the birds, these are being easily being eaten. Reproductive isolation. When you see children, some species, they will be isolating, might be due to the different conditions like adverse climatic conditions. They will be shifting to the other places, like called as migration. They will be moving to the hill areas, mountains, etc. So they give rise to the different species. This is called as reproductive isolation. Children, today we have learned about Lamarckism, objections to Lamarckism, Neo-Lamarckism, Darwinism, theory of natural selection, objections to Darwinism, experimental verification of natural selection under industrial melanism, mutation theory, the postulates of mutation theory, modern synthetic theory, also called as Neo-Darwinism. There is a small assignment, children. These are the few questions which you are expected for IPA examination. Write a short note on the theory of mutations. Explain Darwin's theory of natural selection with industrial melanism as an experimental proof. Write a short note on neo-Darwinism. Give 2 examples to disprove Lamarck's inheritance of acquired characters. Who influenced Darwin most in formulating the idea of natural selection? Children, we have learned that is a few scientists' names, that is who influenced Darwin's ideas and thoughts. Just recall, children, that is Henslow, Charles Lyell, Russell Wallace, etc. So just learn this assignment, children. These are the various attributes I have taken for the class preparation. Yeah, it's time. I thank Satyanarayan Reddy sir, Additional Director, Sri Rajiv sir, Joint Director of Model Schools, my principal Srinivas sir, and all the principals, coordinators, Mrs. Vijayalakshmi madam and Shailaja madam, and also the whole webinar team. Thank you one and all for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Ma. Prashanti, very much thank you. See, students, ma'am explained us about different theories postulated by different scientists and also about the objections raised on those theories and also the neo-Lamarckism and neo-Darwinism. At the end of the session, we could analysis that nature will select anyone on this planet, isn't it? So during the selection process, the organism has to struggle, fit, and adapt to the given situations. And the main thing is mutations play a vital role in evolution, isn't it? So students, please make a notes of all these points, what madam clearly explained to us, which you all are maintaining for webinars. Okay, have a great day, children, and thank you very much, madam, for the
Thank you.
beautiful session.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah.